Hey, are you looking for your first internship or job, or maybe the next step in your career? This is Launch Career Strategies, the podcast that explores all things career for 20-somethings. I'm Karen Elders, an executive recruiter turned career coach, and I'll be your host. Let's get started. Okay, welcome back to Top of the Pile. I am super excited to be joined today by Emma Pratt. Emma is the co-founder of Girl Math Capital, which we will learn all about today. A little background on Emma. She is a 2020 graduate of Vanderbilt University. She started her career in investment banking at Bank of America, where she worked in leveraged finance. She later then moved into strategic finance and M&A at Uber. And in that role, she can tell us more, but she helped drive smarter decision making and meaningful cost savings across their business. Today, Emma is focused full-time on building Girl Math Capital, and that's a platform she co-founded to empower women with education, access, and confidence in alternative investing. So I've been really looking forward to this conversation because as a career coach, working with young women, young professionals, especially women who are either pursuing finance careers or just trying to build confidence around money as they're starting their adult life. I see how overwhelming the finance and investing world can feel if you're not in it every day. So Girl Math Capital has built this incredible community that helps make alternative investing, more accessible, more, the education side about what it even means, and judgment-free environment for women. So welcome, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. I'm so excited to be here.
So fun. Great. Okay. So, I let's start out the beginning, your education and kind of as you explored your career options. I love your background. I think you seem very left and right brain balanced. You're talented in numbers and finance, but I know you were a talented piano player growing up.
Thank you.
How did you approach college? And I guess, what advice do you have for anyone that's still an undergrad, and, maybe how organizations that you joined help prepare you for your full-time career and kind of maybe stepped out of your comfort zone a bit?
Yeah, totally. So as you mentioned, I went into college knowing that I liked both analytical and creative things. Math had always been my strongest subject, but I was also unexpectedly drawn to psychology after I took my first class my senior year of high school. And I went into college not feeling pressure to have everything figured out going in. I knew I wanted to explore business more broadly, but I also really liked understanding how people thought and how people made decisions. So that's why I ended up majoring in psychology and then minoring in business. I joined a few clubs and organizations across my time at Vanderbilt, and if I could give one piece of advice to students, it's really to treat college as a low stakes experimental time. Definitely join as many clubs as you can, sit in on panels or talks, even if you don't know anyone else that's going, and take classes just because they sound interesting. College is one of the only times in my life so far where I've been surrounded by such a concentrated community of speakers and educators and classmates. So I wish I had taken advantage of that even more, and it's definitely what I miss most. So definitely my piece of advice is take advantage of everything that's offered and take this time to step out of your comfort zone and explore what actually excites you.
Yeah, it's such great advice, and I think everybody looks back at their college years and probably thinks similarly that I wish I had done more, explored more. And there is such pressure now on young people to
Mhm.
so early on know what career path they have to be on. There's word that that's going to shift back, but it's hard when the genie gets out of the bottle. Okay. So then, you move into your, I guess, sophomore summer, you were at a private equity firm. And then as your junior summer, you were a summer analyst in investment banking at Bank of America. So, and that ultimately did lead to a full-time role. So, there's also such a benefit, obviously, in having that security early on in your career. But IB is one of the most rigorous paths out of college. but you can obtain really great skills. So what do you feel were the skills the most valuable from the investment banking or your internships, obviously along with your academics that you took forward and you think were the most helpful or critical?
My time at Bank of America was a real crash course in financial analysis, diligence, storytelling. I learned how to evaluate businesses rigorously and then also communicate findings through a clear lens and under pressure. I was in the leverage finance group specifically, which sits on the debt side of transactions. So I worked across virtually every industry and deal type. We did IPOs, we did acquisitions, we did capital refinancings, and also across all industries. So I was exposed to consumer, tech, healthcare, energy and power, and everything in between. And that's one of the main reasons that I chose LevFin. I really liked the people, but I also wanted to see many different businesses through a similar analytical lens. So that helped me figure out two things. One, that I was most excited by consumer and technology, and especially the intersection of the two. And then the second was that while I liked the project based nature of the work, I really wanted to see what it would be like to work at and contribute to one company over time. So that is ultimately what led me to Uber.
Yeah, that's interesting. But you took such great skills and foundation. This is kind of a side note question, but I was just thinking, as a psychology major, and I guess you were also I believe, business minor though. So business,
Mhm.
finance, accounting. So maybe I've answered my question, but when you went into that interview process for the investment banking internship, there's a very technical side of that internship interview process, rather.
Mhm.
Sometimes it requires, a lot of math skills, and obviously you were a strong math student, but did you feel like you had taken courses? Did you have to take anything? Some people will take, uh, prep classes for IB interview. Did you have to take any of those, or did you feel like you were prepared, or you did things on your own?
That's a great question because I do feel like some colleges, especially for students who are in um, specifically business degrees or business schools within college, I think sometimes that they can be taught the types of questions that you get asked in your interviews. I personally did not feel that way, even taking the business minor at Vanderbilt. I felt like particularly the preparation for the technical questions was really a um, something that I had to figure out my own resources and ways to succeed. I didn't take any boot camps, but I've heard of great things about training the street and similar things.
Yeah.
But really just tried to take advantage of the people that I knew that were a bit older that had gone through the process and study as much as I could outside of my core classes at Vanderbilt.
That's great advice. And it's true. There's training the street, Wall Street prep. There's a lot of those programs that people can do because if you're coming, there's a lot of liberal arts majors that are coming into that process who can completely do it. It's just a matter of they might not have, but it's interesting to hear even a business minor. And I've heard this from business majors, they still feel the need to have some sort of additional prep, or most importantly, so you don't have to spend money on extra things, take advantage of those older classmates or young alums that have gone through it that can, share their notes or their process with you on what it'll be like. So thank you. Okay, that's
Totally.
good to ask about that.
And when
Um,
I ended up
yeah.
being on the other side, loved paying it forward and sharing all of my resources and notes. So definitely, if anyone's listening and feels timid to reach out to anyone, know that people are so happy to help and want you to succeed.
It's so true. It's so true. It's the biggest message, really, is this is your time, by the way. As you get older,
Totally.
people aren't as excited. Maybe they are, certain
You're
people, but
expected to be kind of the expert now.
exactly, exactly. So this is your moment. Undergrad, the first 5 years out of college, maybe more. You're really at the perfect stage. So,
Totally.
okay. So then you move to Uber and you go to the call it brand side. And first you're in strategic finance, and then you're in a role that's more M&A. So can you just give us a sense of kind of what that means and the types of projects you might have worked on and what that experience was like?
Definitely. So in strategic finance, I owned the P&L, which stands for profit and loss, for a C-suite executive. So I specifically was working for the chief legal officer. I managed his budget, his forecasting, his employee count and salaries, really everything that touched the amount that the legal organization was bringing in or spending. I felt like some of my core skills from Bank of America translated. Definitely some of the broader ones like attention to detail and comfort with financial modeling. But I do think that strategic finance gave me kind of an entirely new skill set around forecasting, budgeting, financial analysis, and that kind of added to my banking experience to both bring me into kind of my next phase, which was M&A integration. I moved back into M&A because I realized I missed evaluating companies more holistically, and ended up being able to combine both that transaction work and that operating side.
Well, and I would think that one feeds the other so much, right?
Totally.
Understanding, how a company runs and how they make decisions and their value would then help to be part of that, evaluating those M&A transactions and what would be uh, a good decision to purchase or how to integrate them as well. I'm not sure that sounded
Yes.
smart,
I
but
think it made me a more well rounded finance professional from
Mhm.
having both of those different viewpoints and having ultimately you're kind of using the same information, but you're at a different position in the company. It's either you're driving decisions within the company or you're figuring out whether you want to acquire or integrate that company. So it was really cool to have both of those. And I think it just made me a more well-rounded employee at Uber.
Yeah, yeah, I see the well-rounded piece for sure. So let's jump into Girl Math Capital, which I'm such a fan. I love everything you've done about it and just the way you present your branding and all that piece. That's sort of more my background of marketing and branding of things. So I just love what you've done. Um,
Thank you so much.
Tell us about, where did the idea come from and evolve and, what is Girl Math Capital today?
Yes. Maybe I'll start with the second and lead into the first. So we're an investing community for women. So our membership is built around four core pillars, and that's education, deal flow, events, and network. So all of our new members begin with a 4-month boot camp where we bring in experienced professionals across venture and angel investing, real estate investing, and crypto to cover topics like evaluating opportunities and understanding dilution and modeling returns. And then alongside the curriculum, members receive curated deal flow across industries so that they can put that knowledge to work and actually invest. And then also can take advantage of the members within the community and the events that we host, both virtually and in New York City. So, in terms of where we started, I have two co founders. They're two of my very close friends from Vanderbilt. And in 2023, we each started exploring alternative investing on our own. And we sort of ran into the same challenges in the sense that we felt like we weren't necessarily in the right rooms to access deal flow. And we didn't have a trusted place to learn and ask questions. So, Girl Math really evolved out of that gap. We started with 10 close friends, and just like we do today, we would bring in professionals to kind of teach our members these core concepts and skills. And it was when we hosted our first in person event that we stood back and really kind of thought about, wow, there are a lot of people who want this and need this. And so we decided to launch quote unquote publicly in January of 2025.
I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. And I think there's been such a rise of community-based platforms. I mean, maybe some can say it's been since COVID, but um, obviously Zooming and these types of virtual platforms have also given such access and scale to opportunities like this. But I love the in-person opportunities that people, and obviously it's a large market in New York, and I know you're maybe going to be expanding. I'll ask you if you're going to be going into other markets live, but I think those platforms for community, for learning, connection, investing, whatever it might be, really. And do
Mhm.
you, how many times a year do you tell us about how someone could join, or if someone was to join, is it, I know you call them cohorts. How many times a year do you do the cohorts? And then is there another option if someone isn't doing the cohort? And I guess a third part of that question is, what's the requirement to join? Is there a investment background at all required?
Yes, all great questions. And I completely agree with you on the rise of community-based learning and programs. And I feel like people are really craving that post-COVID. They're trying to find a way to actually meet people in person or virtually and bond over a common topic. So I personally love that that is a trend that we've been seeing. In terms of how to join Girl Math, you're exactly right. We launch a new cohort every January and August. So that's when our 4-month boot camp begins. We're always hosting events, though, in New York that are usually open to the public as well. So even if you're not officially in Girl Math, you're welcome to join for a founder talk or a panel or whatever it is. We also have another membership tier. We call them cohort members and community members. And our community members are those who already work full-time in alternative investing or are more experienced investors from a personal standpoint. So that's usually people who work in venture capital or private equity full-time and want the deal flow and the events, but don't necessarily want that education component. I would say 90 to 95% of our new members are through that cohort model, but we also welcome people to our community members on an ongoing basis as well. In terms of prerequisites, we're an application process. Any woman who is post college, has a full time job is able to apply, and our whole goal is to be a starting point for investors. We recommend that you have kind of your traditional portfolio set up. So you've established your 401k or your Roth IRA and are contributing to that. And you have kind of a solid foundation of traditional investments such as stocks, bonds, ETFs. But aside from that, we are really open to all experience levels and ages.
That's great. That's great. I think just that someone has leaned into investing in a certain level. I think that's what it sounds like. And then tell us about some of the events you've had, some of the speakers or the companies that you've maybe invested in, or right? Do you have your own investment?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah. So my favorite events so far have been those where we feature a female founder or those where we host a panel of a few different perspectives on a similar topic. Two of my favorites have been we hosted the founder of Gia. Her name is Melanie Masserin. Gia is a non-alcoholic aperitif that many of our members invested in. And then another was an interview with Julia O'Mara, the co-founder of Pickle, which is a clothing rental platform.
Yes, I know it. Yeah.
I love Pickle. I use it frequently. It's great for trips and weddings. In terms of our investments, so all of our members invest individually. So we share the deal flow, but we don't quote unquote require any investments or collect any investments upfront. But that said, if there are a decent amount of members who are interested in a single opportunity, sometimes we'll run an SPV, which stands for Special Purpose Vehicle, which means that we can combine all of the smaller investments from our members into one lump sum and then give it to the founder. So it's basically a way that we've been able to be a part of deals where the check size is a little bit higher and might not be attainable for some of our members, but running that SPV allows us to contribute all through one name.
Got it.
And we can
Okay.
cut that too if that's too
No, no, no.
technical.
That's I don't know. I think that's helpful actually. So And I didn't start with this, but you made the decision to go full time. I mean, this was something that you were doing kind of on the side, if you will, and you have two other co-founders, correct?
Yes, exactly.
So tell us about that decision. That's a big decision, and it's exciting.
Yeah. So I started full time in August, and I had been seriously thinking about it since April. I loved what I was doing at Girl Math. It was what energized me, excited me. It was what I thought about on a daily basis. And it was really early summer that I started to really seriously think about, when am I going to do this? I was on a project at Uber that was quite busy, which gave me less time to spend on Girl Math. And I thought about a world where I wouldn't be able to build this anymore or contribute. And that was what made me say to myself, the time is now. I want to see where I can take this if I put all of my energy into it, because it's what energizes me. It's what I'm passionate about. So ended up kind of making that decision, and my co-founders were super supportive, and we've fortunately been able to accomplish a lot in the past 6 months. So very excited just to see where we continue going, and grateful that I could make that leap.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I think that can be the difference maker, right? Because sometimes you can't grow something unless someone is full-time focused on it. It can be
Exactly.
hard. Um,
Exactly. And sometimes you get to that point where you just say, the time is now. If I can dedicate all of my energy and get it where I want it to be within 3 months instead of within a year, it can make all the difference in the future of your company.
all the difference. And so, i- you know, where are you as far as what are the goals for this year or beyond as far as growth? I mean, do you have interest in bringing your live events, speaker series things to other cities, or are you sort of really need to build out New York more? What are kind of the short and long term goals for the organization?
Yeah, definitely in terms of geographical presence. We have members nationwide and actually in 7 countries as of now,
Wow.
which has been really awesome. But are very excited to start hosting in-person events in other cities. We just started up a program where we have representatives in some of our major cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Austin, Texas, who will be in charge of kind of hosting those events and getting people together in their cities. So we're so excited to continue to expand our in-person offerings. And then on the educational side and deal flow side, one of the things that we've been focused on the past few months has been, okay, we focus on alternatives, and that's a slice of what a woman's portfolio should be invested in. But how do we ground that in a more holistic approach?
Mm.
And we decided to partner with a female run wealth management firm that we've admired for a long time, Elvest, who can really place our focus of alternatives within a more holistic view. So we're super excited to start offering more resources for women on the traditional side of investing, while continuing to focus on our core product, which is alternatives.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. I mean, you're really doing this in a very thoughtful, holistic way and looking out for people to maximize their investments. So I think that's amazing. I'm
Thank you so
sure,
much.
yeah, and I think people listening that might still be undergrads or, um, I mean, I guess this is a maybe not a question to ask, but I mean, there's no age limit on this, correct? I mean, it's just you have to be out of college. But I mean, I imagine
Yes,
most of them are young professionals, right?
we right now, our I would say the majority of our community is in their 20s and 30s, but we are kind of actively trying to expand that age range. The reason that we ask that people are post grad is because the expectation is that you have an income that you will be investing in these areas. But I do see a world where we start up a college program where it's maybe education only, and then you can start the investing side of things once you're post-grad and start your first full-time job. So definitely excited about the opportunity to go both later and earlier within our age range.
I love that. First of all, that whole holistic, investment approach that you're developing. And it sounds like, your target audience is for now just a post-grad woman, so that's in a full-time employment. I'm sure because you and your co-founders are, young women, that's probably around the age that you're attracting. But I love that it's open to really women that just want to take charge of their investments. So it's great.
Totally.
Yeah.
And actually, each of our moms have joined this cohort that's going on right now. So,
I
excited
love
to
that.
continue welcoming women of all ages.
Okay, maybe I'm going to put that on my bucket to-do list for the next year. I'll
Yes,
try to
please.
apply.
We would
That's
love to
great.
have you, Karen.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting because as my company has launched career strategies, I mostly work with young professionals, but I've also worked with women who are returning to work, and it's an interesting, similar sort of mindset because you're just starting out, you're insecure, and you're lacking the confidence, and you're learning how to enter for the first time or re-enter the workplace. So I imagine there's women who are at a point where, they think, I want to have more knowledge around what I'm doing with my money and if I have a little or a lot, whatever it is. So it's fantastic. I love it.
100%. Yeah. And I think when we talk about angel investing specifically, of course, we hope that there are some financial returns from it. But I think the most important reasons to angel invest are actually not financial at all. I think it's to gain experience, to expand your network, to learn about an industry or a company that you're excited about. So, kind of to your point on these women who are sort of hoping to start their second career, I think that's a great time to join a community like Girl Math because you can get exposure to a bunch of different types of companies, figure out what you're excited about. And even if you aren't looking to invest financially, maybe you end up finding a job through that. And
Right.
so definitely think there's a lot of opportunities to get involved besides making an actual investment too.
It's fabulous. It's awesome. I love what you're doing. Love what you're doing. Well, so I will in the show notes of the podcast, I'll put your link to the application page and obviously the website and all the
Perfect.
information. And I don't know. I think we've covered it, but thank you so much. This is
Amazing.
awesome. Excited for people to learn more about Girl Math.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Karen. This was so much fun. And I love chatting with you.
Are you looking for more career advice or one-on-one career coaching? Check out Launch Career Strategies. We help young professionals launch successful and fulfilling careers. Check us out at launchcareerstrategies.com. By the way, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating and review. Reviews are key to helping spread the word about the Launch Career Strategies podcast and our career coaching services. Thanks again for listening. I hope you're having an amazing week.